Many people have asked the question as to whether or not you are allowed to film school plays and whether you can get into trouble for doing so. Many people have also asked the question as to whether you must provide a copy of any footage that you take during a school play by another parent. Other people might insist that you delete footage if you have captured their child on your footage whilst filming a school play. All of these questions and the answers there too will depend on the school rules. Essentially, the school is a private premises and the school will make rules as to whether or not you are allowed to film. Very often when there are disputes between different parents about such things, the school will make a simple rule that no one is allowed to film the play, thus eliminating the problem, or so they think. What happens then when someone actually does film when they are not allowed to, and what can the school do about it? Some of these latter questions are not entirely straightforward. However, the default position, as I said, is that the school can make its rules as to whether or not you are allowed to film these plays. And when making such recordings, they are likely to fall under the household exemption, provided that they are not going to be published online and shared with a large number of people. For example, if the recording is only being filmed to share with family members and to store as a keepsake, as a household activity, then this is going to be exempt under the GDPR and data protection, and you will not be under any obligation to provide a copy to anyone else under something like a data subject access request. Likewise, no one else will be able to insist that you delete such footage because again, it will fall under a household exception. So whereas one of the common situations is that another parent will insist on a copy or insist on the deletion of material because their child appears in such a recording, these are not such demands that they can make because, as I said, it will fall under a household exception. The difficulty comes, however, if such recordings are then published online and they become public, then because the play has taken place essentially on a private premises, as in the school, and there was no intention or consent for most of the people there for this to be published online to the general public, there is almost certainly going to be a reasonable expectation of privacy for each of those children that have not consented to the play being published online. The situation might be different if there was a whole play and everyone taking part had declared their consent to have this recording published online. That then would not have the same problems as if it were a play that was not intended for such publication. So as with any of these situations, I always recommend an open dialogue and discussion between everybody involved, between the parents and the school, and hopefully between parents and each other. But ultimately, if there are disputes that arise, then you will have to look at whether it is a recording that you retain wholly in your household and not being shared with third parties or published online, in which case there usually isn't going to be a problem. But before all of that, you will need to check the school rules as to whether the school permits filming of such plays on its premises and what you're allowed to do with them afterwards. So I hope this brief overview of filming school plays has been useful. Please give it a thumbs up if you like this content, and remember, stay humble and subscribe.